So let's begin this episode by looking at Malaysia. Malaysia is divided into two parts, Malaysian Borneo and Peninsular Malaysia. Malaysia is the 45th most populated country in the world according to the World Population Review. And that population is at 32.04 million people. The population density is 96.86 people per square kilometer. And the total land area of Malaysia is 330,803 square kilometers. And when we take a look at stats from 2016, Malaysia exported $184 billion, making it the 20th largest exporter in the world, and imported $156 billion. Malaysia's GDP is around $296.4 billion, and its GDP per capita is $9,502.67. So now let's look at the top exports of Malaysia. Now the first one was integrated circuits at $25.6 billion. Then we have refined petroleum at $10.9 billion and palm oil at $8.94 billion. Malaysia's top imports also include integrated circuits that sit at $18.5 billion, and then refined petroleum at $11.4 billion, and semiconductor devices at $3.29 billion.
Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. summoning the Ambassador of Malaysia as a response to the Foreign Minister of Malaysia's summons to the Philippine Ambassador to Kuala Lumpur to explain Locsin's earlier tweet that Sabah is not in Malaysia. Locsin revealed that Malaysia had tried to derail the arbitral award that the Philippines won in The Hague, which ruled in favor of the Philippines' maritime entitlements and invalidated China's sweeping claims over the South China Sea.
The Philippines is one of Malaysia's largest trading partners. On the other hand, Malaysia is one of the largest employers of Filipino labor overseas. Both countries are in good terms except for the fact that there is an impending dispute between Philippines and Malaysia with regards to a certain part of Sabah Island for the past 50 years. It was said that the Philippines had a claim on this part of Sabah since 1963 when Malaysia was formed. In the year 2013, there are several hundreds of Filipino militants who crossed the sea and invaded the town of Lahad Datu in Sabah. These Filipino militants fought the Malaysian army for more than a month, allegedly killed 10 troops, forcing the Malaysian army to resort in fighting with the use of tanks, jets, and warships in order to close the border with southern Philippines and to stop the attacks. Malaysia takes moderate approach to diplomacy. That is why Malaysian Prime Minister Najib said that he wanted to meet President Rodrigo Duterte to discuss about the issue of Sabah, and this meeting took place last November 2016.
This may look like a badminton court, but the sport we're featuring today requires no equipment other than a ball and requires fancy footwork and aerial stunts. It's a bit like volleyball, but you can't use your arms or your hands. It's none other than sepak takraw.
So sepak takraw is predominantly played in the Southeast Asian country. At present, our national team, we are number 6 in the world.
Each match is played to the best of 3 sets based on the 15 rally point system, 2 minutes interval between sets. Sets will be referred to as the first, second and third set.
Mata.
Mata.
Bola.
Bola.
Gunting.
Gunting.
Ite.
Itik.
Bawang.
Bawang.
Tanda.
Tanda.
Adik.
Adik.
Susu.
Susu.
The Malay language is spoken not only by Malaysians but by all Malay people who reside in Malaysia and also in countries like the Philippines. Malays played a significant role in pre-Hispanic Philippine history. The Malay language was the lingua franca of the archipelago prior to Spanish rule. Up to now, the influence of Malays in our language is significant. Thus, there are certain Filipino words that has the same pronunciation with Malay words but expresses different meaning. Various discussion around the globe tackles the comparison and contrast of these words as part of the efforts to adapt to international language and to communicate with nations across borders. The work culture of Malaysia is unique. People who work there will experience situations which are not usually experienced in workplaces of other countries. The Malaysian Employment Act defines a work week as 48 hours of work per week. It also states that there are to be a maximum of 8 working hours per day and 6 working days per week. Malaysian workers are eligible for full-time employment when they turn 14. However, certain protective regulations apply to adolescents of between the ages of 14 and 16. Malaysian labor laws allow for a minimum of 10 days of paid holidays in a year. The latest statistics shows that the total workforce of Malaysia consists of over 15 million people. Thus, approximately 48% of Malaysia's population are part of its workforce. Malaysia's current unemployment rate is 3.3%. Just like any other country, Malaysia has a distinctive work culture. This work culture differs from those of other countries in significant ways. Employee breaks in Malaysia tend to be shorter than those of several other countries. Some companies, however, permit their employees to have a further break later in the afternoon. Conversely, break durations abroad tend to be longer than those in Malaysia, because it is believed that longer breaks will ultimately serve to increase the productivity levels of employees and thus the company as a whole. In Malaysia, all work meetings are to have official start times. Meetings are typically initiated by one person who will call for everyone involved to assemble, then usher these people towards the place in which the meeting will be held. Before the meeting begins, employees remain at their desks to wait for the commencement of the meeting. Malaysia, as a country of global culture, encompasses countless of customs that can set shared experiences, norms, symbols, and ideas that unite people at a global level. Malaysia is a multi-ethnic, multicultural, and multilingual society, and the many ethnic groups in Malaysia maintain separate cultural identities, making the society of Malaysia been described as Asia in miniature. The Malaysian economy is a newly industrialized market economy, and it is 4th largest in Southeast Asia, ranking 35th largest in the world. Also, Malaysia is the 3rd richest economy by value of gross domestic product per capita in Southeast Asia.